Hello and welcome back to my channel. This video is to help you practice in answering some exam questions like processing transactions in the petty cash book. I prepared two questions or two tasks for this topic, and this is the first question. ABC Limited maintains a petty cash book as a daybook and as a part of the general ledger. It was 1st of July and the amount of cash in the till is 37.50. Later that same day, the cash float was restored to 200. Letter A. What is the entry in the petty cash book to restore the imprest? I found petty cash questions usually confusing, so to answer this type of questions, I drew a petty cash account to visualize the scenario. So let's imagine this side here is the blank paper that you were given in the exam center, and we will use this paper to draw the petty cash account. So let's enter all the given details in the question to our petty cash account. It says here, it was 1st of July and the amount of cash in the till is 37.5. So let's enter that into our petty cash book. And later that same day, the cash float was restored to 200. So let's enter the total. It should be 200. And then that same day, which is the 1st of July, let's enter bank. Because the cash added to our petty cash is transferred from the bank account, and the amount that we should transfer to petty cash to make the total equal to 200 is the difference of 200 and 37.50. So let's calculate 200 minus 37.50, and we got 162.50. So let's double check. On the 1st of July, the amount of cash remaining in the till is 37.50. And the same day, we added cash amounting to 162.50. So the total that we have now in the till is 200. So the cash float or the imprest was restored to 200. We could now answer letter A. What is the entry in the petty cash book to restore the imprest? And this is the answer. For the details, it's bank. The amount is 162.50. And for the side, it's debit. Let's continue. Within the month, the petty cash expense totaled to 173.75. B. What is the entry in the petty cash book for the closing balance of 31st of July? Let's enter the given details into our petty cash book. So within the month, the total of expenses will be 173.75. Let's enter expenses. And then we were asked what is the entry for the closing balance on the 31st of July. So let's balance our petty cash book. We can see now that the total of the debit and credit are not equal. So we should insert the balance carried down to the side that has the lower total, which is credit. So let's enter 31st of July, balance carried down, and the amount should be the difference of the two totals. So let's calculate 200 minus 173.75, and we got 26.25. Now it makes both our totals equal to 200. Next, let's insert the balance brought down to the opposite side where we entered the balance carried down, which is debit. Let's enter the date, which is the 1st of the following month. and then balance brought down with the same amount. Now that our petty cash account is balanced, we can now answer the question B. What is the entry in the petty cash book for the closing balance on the 31st of July? You have to be very careful in answering this type of question. You have to find out what is being asked for. It says here closing balance on the 31st of July, so this should be the correct entry. Let's enter the details. Balance carried down. The amount should be 26.25 and the side should be in credit. Next, let's move on to the second question. ABC Limited maintains a petty cash book as a day book and a part of the general ledger. It was 31st of July and the total amount of the expenses for the month is 137 and the amount of the petty cash was restored to the impress amount of 200 that day. A. What will be the entry in the petty cash book to restore the cash back to 200? And before we answer that question, again, let's imagine this side is your blank paper and let's draw a petty cash account. Then let's analyze the question and enter all the given information to our petty cash account. It says here it was 31st of July and the amount of expenses for the month is 137. So it means this petty cash account is for the month of July. So let's enter the amount of the expenses here. Then let's enter expenses and the amount. We don't have the amount of the opening balance, but if we analyze, it says here that the petty cash was restored to the impress amount of 200. So it means the opening balance is 200. So let's enter 1st of July, balance brought down 200. So if the opening balance of the petty cash is 200 and within the month we spend 137 of that 200, the question here is how much cash do we need to put back in the petty cash in order for us to restore it back to 200? And the answer is this same amount that we spend should be the same amount that we should return or put back to our petty cash. So let's enter the same day, which is 31st of July, and then let's enter the same amount, 137, and let's enter bank because this amount will be coming from the bank transferred to the petty cash account. Now we have the details to answer the letter A. For the details, let's enter bank. For the amount, it's 137. And for the side, either debit or credit, it's debit. Next, letter B, what will be the entry in the petty cash book for the closing balance on the 31st of July? The question here is the closing balance, so let's balance our petty cash book. Let's enter the totals. For the debit, let's add this to 200 plus 137. The total is 337. For the credit, the total is 137. And as you can see, the totals are not equal, so we should insert the balance carried down to the side that has the lower total, which is credit. Let's enter the date, which is the end of the month, and then let's enter balance carried down. And the amount should be the difference of these two totals. So let's calculate. It's 337 minus 137 and the amount is 200. Then we are going to insert the balance brought down to the opposite side where we entered the balance carried down, which is debit. The date is the beginning of the following month. And then let's enter balance brought down. And the amount is the same amount, which is 200. It means at the beginning of each month, the amount of cash inside the petty cash box is always 200. Now that our petty cash account is balanced, we can now answer letter B. What will be the entry in the petty cash book for the closing balance on the 31st of July? And the answer here is this entry. For the details, it's balance carried down. The amount is 200. And for the side, either debit or credit, it's credit. And we're done answering all the questions. Before I end this video, let me just summarize my advice for this topic. First is to draw petty cash account to visualize all the details given in the question so it will be easier to answer them. Second is to be very careful in answering this type of question because it could be confusing. Sometimes the question here is, what is the balance carried down? And the answer would be this one, which is in credit. And if you were asked what is the balance brought down, the answer would be this one, which is in the debit. So you have to pay attention to those details. And that's it for this video. I hope you find it useful. If you want to watch more videos like this, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching.